At 40, I returned to my abusive, alcoholic mother after years apart. We slowly rebuilt trust before she died, finally sober. She left me $140,000, a quiet apology. I never expected the letter. It came on a Tuesday, folded neatly inside a plain white envelope, with my name scrawled across it in handwriting I hadn't seen in nearly 20 years. I knew who it was from the second I saw the way she curled the T in Thomas, like a ribbon, always too fancy, as if writing my name wasn't already hard enough for her. I almost didn't open it. I sat on my apartment floor, the sounds of the city floating in through the window, sirens, car horns, the hum of people going places. I stared at the envelope until the sunlight shifted across the hardwood. Then I broke the seal. Dear Thomas, I don't know if you'll read this. I don't know if you'll care. But I wanted to say I'm sorry. I'm at the Oak Ridge Rest Home now. I've been sober 4 years. If you can find it in your heart, come visit. I'd like to see my son before I go. Mum, 4 years sober. I read that line again, out loud, as if saying it would make it real. I hadn't seen her since I was 22. I left the house that day with a split lip and a police report that never went anywhere. That had been her last big episode. A bottle of gin, a smashed picture frame, and a slap that knocked the hope out of me. After that, I left for good. Even now, at 40, with a solid job, a quiet life, and friends who knew only the surface of me, I carried that slap in my bones. She was my mother, and she broke me. I drove to Oak Ridge 2 weeks later, not because I wanted to forgive her, not even because I missed her, but because I needed to know if she was real, if the years had changed her, if the monster from my memories had become something human again. It was a small place, tucked between a row of trees in the valley just outside Levin, the kind of facility that smelled like lemon cleaner and wilted flowers. A nurse guided me through the hallways. She was kind, too kind, the kind of kind you learn when you work with people on borrowed time. She talks about you often, the nurse said. I didn't answer. They led me to a sunroom with wicker chairs and soft jazz playing from an old speaker. There she was, in a blue cardigan, her grey hair tied back, sitting by the window like she'd always belonged to that gentle light. Thomas? She said, turning. I almost didn't recognize her. Age had softened the edges of her face, worn her down like sea glass, but the eyes were the same, pale blue, piercing, tired. Mum, I said. Her eyes filled and she nodded slowly. You came. I wasn't sure I would, I admitted. I wouldn't have blamed you. Silence settled between us like fog. I sat across from her, my hands clenched tight in my lap. I didn't know what to say to the woman who both gave me life and made so much of it miserable. I never thought you'd speak to me again, she said, voice thin. I wasn't going to. What changed? I don't know, I said honestly. Curiosity. Maybe hope. She nodded, looking out the window. Hope's a funny thing. We talked for 20 minutes. Nothing deep, just surface stuff. Weather, how long I'd been in Wellington. She asked if I was married. I told her no. She didn't ask why. When I got up to leave, she reached for my hand. I flinched before I could stop myself. She noticed. Let go. I'm sorry, she whispered. And for the first time in years, I believed she meant it. Over the next few weeks, I kept visiting. Every Saturday, I made the drive, 2 hours each way. The first few visits were short, stiff, like two actors trying to remember old lines from a play they never finished. But slowly, the conversations grew. She started sharing little stories about her parents, about when I was a baby, how I used to grab her thumb with both hands like it was a lifeline. I wasn't always broken, she said once, but I was never whole either. I asked her what she meant, and she told me about her father, how he drank, how he yelled, how the house always smelled like fear and cigarettes. How could I give you love, she asked, when I never knew what it looked like? I didn't answer. I didn't know how. One visit, I brought a photo album, the old one from the attic, still smelling like dust and mildew. She turned the pages slowly, stopping at each one. You were such a sweet boy, she said, touching the image of my 3rd birthday. I remember that cake. I'd saved for 2 months to buy it. Dad left 2 weeks later, I murmured. She closed the album. I used to hate him. she said. Blamed him for leaving. But if I'm honest, I don't know if I'd have stayed either. There was no self-pity in her voice, just quiet truth. The hardest part wasn't seeing her weak or old. It wasn't even seeing her cry. It was the way my heart started to soften despite myself. I didn't want to forgive her. Not really. Forgiveness felt like betrayal, like I was excusing all the nights I hid in my room, the bruises I lied about, the birthdays she forgot. But as the months passed, I started realizing that forgiveness wasn't about erasing the past. It was about refusing to carry it with me forever. She never asked me to forgive her. She just showed up, every visit, sober, honest, raw. One afternoon, as we sat watching rain slide down the window pane, she whispered, "I used to drink, so I wouldn't feel like a failure." "You weren't," I said before I could stop myself. She looked at me, eyes shimmering. "I was, but maybe I don't have to die as one." That night, I sat in my apartment staring at the ceiling. I thought about the time she left me at the bus stop in winter. The time she threw a plate at my head. The years of apologies followed by more chaos. I thought about the woman I saw now. The tremble in her fingers. The way she kept all my old drawings in a shoebox under her bed. The way she never asked me to forget, only to see her now. And for the first time in my life, I prayed for her. Not for her to change, but for peace. For the kind of peace I never thought either of us would know. She died on a Wednesday. I'd visited her the Saturday before. She was tired that day, her words softer, trailing off mid-thought sometimes. We sat mostly in silence, the afternoon sun drifting across the linoleum floor. Before I left, she held my hand. This time, I didn't flinch. "I'm proud of you," she said, barely louder than the hum of the radiator. "You became everything I hoped I wouldn't ruin." I didn't know how to respond. I just squeezed her hand back, then leaned in and kissed her on the forehead. Her hair smelled faintly of lavender. "See you next week," I told her. She smiled, but didn't answer. The call came early in the morning. A nurse with a warm voice and tired tone. Peaceful. No pain. She passed in her sleep. I sat on the edge of my bed, phone still pressed to my ear, numb. I didn't cry, not right away. I just stared out the window, the world unchanged by something that had, for me, just split open. At the rest home, they handed me a small box with her belongings. A pair of glasses, a well-worn copy of the bell jar, the shoebox full of my childhood drawings, each one still creased and faded. "She talked about you all the time," the nurse said. "She said reconnecting with you was her miracle." That was the first time the tears came. Quiet, deep. The funeral was small. No siblings, no extended family. Just a few residents from Oak Ridge, a former AA sponsor named Ruth, and me. Ruth gave the eulogy. She spoke about transformation, about second chances, about how the last few years of Mum's life had been about making peace. With herself, with her past, with the son she thought she'd lost. She didn't want to be remembered for what she did wrong, Ruth said, but for the way she kept trying to make it right. Afterward, I stood by the headstone, the damp soil still freshly turned. The wind tugged at my coat as I placed a single photo on the grave, a picture of us from my 6th birthday. She had her arms around me, cake on my chin, a rare smile on her face. "I forgive you," I whispered, and I meant it. 2 weeks later, I got a call from a lawyer. "I'm the executor of your mother's will," she said. "She left something for you." I expected maybe a few $100s, a letter. Perhaps the rest home had helped her draw something up before she passed. What I didn't expect was $140,000. "She sold a plot of land outside Hastings some years ago," the lawyer explained. "Invested every cent in a managed fund. She never touched a dollar." There was a letter too, written in the same shaky hand I remembered. "Dear Thomas, I know money can't fix the past, but I wanted to leave you something that might make your road a little easier. I couldn't be the mother you needed, but maybe this can be part of making things right. I've watched you grow from afar. I've kept every drawing, every memory close. You are good. You are kind. And I hope you find the peace I always searched for. Don't carry me forever. Let yourself be free. Love, Mum." I read it 3 times. Then I folded it carefully and tucked it into the back of the photo album. I didn't spend the money right away. I let it sit like a fragile gift on the edge of my conscience. I wrestled with guilt, with gratitude, with grief. The scars she left didn't vanish with a check, but neither did her effort go unseen. Eventually, I used a portion to start something called the Lantern Room, a support space for adult children of alcoholics in abusive homes. Somewhere quiet, safe, built not on forgetting, but on understanding, on learning how to live whole, even if you came from something broken. We host weekly gatherings, no pressure to share, just tea, soft lighting, shelves of books, a warm fire in winter. Every week, someone new walks through the door, nervous, guarded, holding some invisible wound they've carried for too long. And every week, I tell them the same thing. You don't have to forgive to move forward, but you do have to stop bleeding for someone else's knife. Some do find forgiveness, some don't, but they find healing, and sometimes that's more than enough. On the anniversary of her death, I drove to the little cemetery in Levin. It was raining, the sky low and grey. I stood under my umbrella, staring down at the stone. Margaret Ellen Reeves, 1954 to 2025. Stillness is a kind of song. I told her about the Lantern Room, about how a woman last week said it was the first place she felt safe since she was a girl, about the young man who cried in my arms because no one had ever told him he deserved better. I told her I was okay, that I still have bad days, that I still wake up sometimes from dreams where I'm small again, hiding under the kitchen table. But I told her I wasn't angry anymore. I miss what we could have had, I said, but I'm grateful for what we found at the end. I placed a ginger beer on her grave, a little inside joke between us, from when she used to drink it during her sober streaks. Then I turned to go. And for the first time, I didn't feel like I was walking away from something. I felt like I was walking towards something else entirely, something whole, something free.